In a forest of towering redwoods, what is the purpose of an oak? A grandfather's lesson from the heart of California teaches a simple truth. The world doesn't just need giants who touch the sky. It needs the quiet strength that shelters the ground. The oak and the redwood. In a glass-walled office overlooking the frantic energy of downtown Chicago, Sarah was drowning. Not in paperwork, but in comparison. At 29, she was a talented architect, respected by her colleagues, with a portfolio of sleek, functional buildings that were quietly changing the city's landscape. But her screen was always a two-way mirror. On one side was her own solid, respectable work. On the other was the dazzling reflection of Michael, her old college roommate, now a star architect based in Los Angeles. Michael's Instagram was a highlight reel of impossible glamour. Here he was, accepting an award in Dubai. There he was, sketching on a yacht off the Amalfi Coast. His latest project, a gravity-defying, solar-paneled museum, was being hailed as the future of architecture in magazines that Sarah kept on her own coffee table. Every post was a silent judgment. His success made her own feel small, provincial. Her steady climb felt like a failure next to his meteoric rise. The pride she took in her work would curdle into a bitter stew of envy and self-doubt. She wasn't just an architect. She was an architect who wasn't Michael. One Friday, after a particularly draining week where a project she loved was put on indefinite hold, the final blow landed. Michael was on the cover of Forbes in their 30 Under 30 issue. Sarah closed her laptop, the feeling of defeat so heavy it felt like the weight of a skyscraper on her chest. She called her grandfather. He was a retired carpenter who lived a quiet life in Northern California, a world away from her own. He didn't offer platitudes. He just listened to the exhaustion in her voice and said, thoughtful, "Sarah, your battery's dead. Calm. I bought you a plane ticket. It lands tomorrow." Defeated and with nothing left to lose, she went. The next day, instead of driving into the small town from the airport, her grandfather took a detour. They drove north, the air growing cooler, smelling of pine and damp earth. They parked at the base of a trail Sarah didn't recognize, calm. "Walk with me," he said simply. They walked in silence for 20 minutes, the sounds of the highway fading, replaced by the crunch of leaves and the distant call of a bird. Then, the path opened into a cathedral. All around them stood the giants, the coastal redwoods of California. They were magnificent, ancient beings. Sunlight struggled to pierce the canopy, sending down ethereal, dusty beams of light. The air was still and sacred. Sarah felt her own anxieties shrink in their colossal presence. "Look at them," her grandfather whispered, his voice filled with reverence. "This one," he said, patting a particularly massive trunk, "is probably over 1,500 years old. It's seen empires rise and fall. It's a redwood. It was born to touch the sky." He then led her a few feet off the path to a different tree. It was an oak, broad and gnarled, its branches twisting out horizontally, creating a thick, shady canopy. Its leaves were a deep, vibrant green, and acorns littered the ground beneath it. "And this," he said, his hand resting on the oak's rough bark, "is a California black oak. It will never be as tall as the redwood. It wasn't built for that. But look at its branches. They give shade to the ferns and a home to the squirrels. Its acorns feed the deer. In the fall, its leaves will turn a brilliant gold, painting the forest with a color the redwood can never offer. It's just as strong, just as vital, just as beautiful. It's just different." He looked at her, his eyes kind but clear. "You're standing in a forest, Sarah, looking at this magnificent oak and getting angry that it's not a redwood. You're praising the redwood for its height while ignoring the oak's strength and breadth. You're ignoring the unique beauty it brings to the ecosystem." He let the silence hang in the sacred air. "Michael," he continued softly, "he might be a redwood. He was born to shoot for the sky, to be seen from miles away. And that's a fine thing to be. But you, my dear, you're an oak. You build things with deep roots and a quiet, unshakable strength. You provide shelter. You create community. The world desperately needs oaks. A forest with only redwoods would be a dark and barren place on the ground." Tears streamed down Sarah's face, not of sadness, but of relief. The crushing weight on her chest began to lift, dissolving into the ancient air. For the first time, she saw it clearly. She had been judging her own journey by a map that wasn't hers. She wasn't failing at being Michael. She was succeeding, beautifully, at being Sarah. When she returned to Chicago, everything was different, yet nothing had changed. The city was still frantic, her office was still glass, and Michael's face was still on magazines at the newsstand. But when she saw it now, she felt a genuine flicker of warmth. Good for him, she thought. The redwood is touching the sky. She opened her laptop and looked at the plans for her stalled. She saw the way it would serve the community, the way people would live and work and connect within the walls she had designed. She saw its broad, strong, oak-like purpose, and with a newfound peace, a quiet power that came not from looking up at others, but from looking within, she picked up her pen and began to draw. Not comparing, not competing, but creating. She was an oak, and her part of the forest was waiting. We learned 5 powerful moral lessons from the story. Number 1, comparison is the thief of joy and the architect of misery. Moral education. The story teaches that measuring your own success, journey, or happiness against someone else's highlight reel is a guaranteed path to dissatisfaction. It turns your personal victories into perceived failures and poisons your well of self-esteem. Number 2, true worth lies in your unique nature, not in emulation. Moral education. Your value is not determined by how well you can imitate someone else. It is found in embracing and cultivating your own inherent strengths, talents, and character. Being a first-rate version of yourself is infinitely more valuable than being a second-rate version of someone else. Number 3, success is not a single universal standard. Moral education. Society often presents a narrow, loud, and visible version of success. This story teaches us to broaden our definition. Success can be quiet integrity, community impact, deep-rooted stability, or bringing a unique color to the world that no one else can. It is about fulfilling your own purpose, not climbing someone else's ladder. Number 4, self-acceptance is the foundation of true power. Moral education. The greatest source of personal power and peace comes from radical self-acceptance. When you stop fighting your own nature, you unlock the energy you were wasting on comparison and can channel it into creation, growth, and genuine fulfillment. Number 5, a secure identity allows you to celebrate others. Moral education. When you are secure in your own identity and purpose, when the oak knows it's an oak, you are no longer threatened by the success of others. You can appreciate their strengths and celebrate their victories because you recognize that you are all part of the same beautiful, diverse forest, each contributing in your own essential way.